The wallet sat heavy in Lena's trembling hands, $10,000 in crisp hundreds, left behind by the most dangerous man she'd ever served. Return it, and she'd walk into a world that destroyed people like her. Keep it, and her mother would die waiting for treatment she couldn't afford. What Lena didn't know? He'd been watching her for months. The forgotten wallet wasn't an accident, it was a test, and she'd just passed the first round of a game where the prize was her life, and the cost might be her soul. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights of Giancarlo's Italian restaurant buzzed with the same tired frequency as Lena Hart's exhausted heartbeat. 9 p.m. on a Thursday, and her feet screamed inside the cheap black flats she'd resold 3 times because new shoes weren't in the budget. Not when her mother's medication cost more than Lena made in a month. Not when the hospital bills arrived with the reliability of seasons, each one heavier than the last. She balanced a tray of dirty dishes on her hip, weaving through tables of laughing couples who didn't notice her. Invisible. That's what she'd become over 2 years of serving pasta to people who looked through her like she was part of the furniture. And that was fine. Invisibility was safe. Invisibility meant she could survive another shift, collect another paycheck, keep her mother alive another week. Table 7 needs water, Marco, the head waiter, snapped as she passed. He didn't look up from his phone. And smile, Lena. You look like someone died. Someone was dying, slowly, expensively. But Lena forced her lips into the practiced curve that didn't reach her eyes and grabbed a water pitcher. Table 7 sat in the corner booth, the expensive one with the view of the city lights, reserved for the kind of customers who tipped in percentages that actually mattered. But when Lena approached with her rehearsed greeting ready, the words died in her throat. The man sitting alone in the booth made the air feel different, thinner, sharper. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her car, tailored so precisely it looked like it had been sewn onto his body. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all hard angles and aristocratic lines. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Gray, like storm clouds, and focused on her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. The entire restaurant had gone quieter. Even the kitchen noise seemed muted. People at other tables kept glancing over, then quickly looking away as if afraid to be caught staring. "Good evening," Lena's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Can I start you with something to drink?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, those gray eyes traveled over her face with the precision of someone reading a document. Not leering, assessing, like he was memorizing her features for a test later. "Whiskey," he finally said. His voice was low, controlled, with an accent she couldn't quite place. European, maybe Italian, but smoothed by years of somewhere else. "Neat. And the osso buco." "Of course." She wrote it down even though she'd remember. "You didn't forget orders from men who made the room hold its breath." "Any appetizers?" "No." The word was final, dismissive. She should have walked away. But something made her linger for half a second. The way he'd looked at her, like he recognized her from somewhere, like she wasn't invisible at all. "Lena." Marco's hiss from across the room broke the spell. "Stop bothering Mr. Moretti." Mr. Moretti. The name meant nothing to her, but the fear in Marco's voice meant everything. She nodded quickly and retreated to the bar, her heart hammering. "Who is he?" she whispered to Tony, the bartender, as he poured the whiskey. Tony's weathered face went carefully blank. "Someone you don't ask questions about. Someone you serve perfectly and forget immediately. Understand?" She didn't, but she nodded anyway. 28 years of life had taught her when to push and when to stay silent. The dinner service passed in a blur of other tables, other customers, other problems. But Lena found her gaze drifting back to table 7 again and again. Adrian Moretti sat alone for 2 hours, eating slowly, drinking slower. He never looked at his phone, never seemed bored, just sat there with the patience of a man who had all the time in the world and knew it. When she brought his check, he handed her a black credit card without looking at the total. "Thank you for dining with us," she said automatically. The service was excellent. He looked up at her, and again that strange sensation of being truly seen washed over her. "What's your name?" She shouldn't have answered, should have deflected with professional courtesy, but those eyes held her pinned like a butterfly to cork. "Lena. Lena Hart." "Lena." He said it like he was tasting the syllables. You work too hard for too little. The observation was so unexpected, so accurate, that she actually laughed, a short, bitter sound. That's an interesting thing to say to your waitress. I notice things. He signed the receipt, added a tip that made her blink, $500 on a $200 meal. Good night, Lena Hart. He stood, and she realized he was tall, easily 6'2", maybe more. The restaurant seemed to exhale as he walked toward the exit, people visibly relaxing in his wake. Lena stared at the receipt, her hands shaking slightly. $500. That was half her mother's next treatment. That was groceries for a month. That was... Holy shit, Marco breathed, looking over her shoulder. He actually liked you. I've never seen him tip more than 20%. The shift ended at 11. Lena's feet throbbed as she changed out of her work clothes in the cramped employee bathroom, pulling on jeans and a sweater that had seen better years. The $500 tip sat in her purse like a talisman, already mentally allocated to bills and medicine. She was halfway to her car when she saw it. A wallet. Black leather, expensive looking, lying on the ground next to where a sleek black Mercedes had been parked. The parking spot was empty now, but she recognized it. She'd seen Adrian Moretti's car there when she'd peeked out the window during her break. Lena picked it up with trembling fingers. The leather was butter soft, the kind that aged beautifully because it cost a fortune to begin with. She should have left it at the restaurant's Lost and Found, should have handed it to Marco and gone home. Instead, she opened it. The driver's license confirmed what she already knew. Adrian Moretti, though the address was in a part of the city she'd only driven through with her car doors locked. Behind the license were credit cards, a few business cards for companies she'd never heard of, and cash. So much cash. Lena's breath caught. $100 bills, crisp and clean, stacked thick enough to make the wallet bulge. She didn't count it, didn't want to know exactly how much she was looking at, but it was thousands, maybe 10,000, maybe more. Her mother's face floated in her mind. Pale, drawn, wincing with pain she tried to hide. The hospital had called twice this week about overdue bills. The new treatment protocol, the one that might actually work, cost $15,000 that insurance wouldn't cover. This money could save her mother's life. This money didn't belong to her. Lena stood in the empty parking lot, the wallet heavy in her hands, and felt the weight of a choice that shouldn't have been a choice at all. She went home first. The apartment she shared with her mother was small, shabby, but clean. Lena made sure of that. Pride was about all they had left. Her mother was asleep, the TV playing softly. Lena stood in the doorway of her bedroom, watching the shallow rise and fall of her chest, counting the breaths like she'd done since the diagnosis. Chronic kidney disease, stage 4. Without a transplant or intensive treatment, the doctors gave her maybe a year. With $15,000, maybe 2 years, maybe more. Lena closed her eyes and saw her mother teaching her to bake cookies when she was 7. Saw her working double shifts as a hotel maid to keep Lena in school. Saw her at Lena's high school graduation, crying with pride, even though Lena hadn't been able to afford college. Then she opened her eyes and saw what her mother had become. A shadow, growing frailer every day, pretending she wasn't in pain when Lena knew she was. The wallet sat on this kitchen counter where Lena had placed it. She stared at it for 20 minutes, making coffee she didn't drink, rehearsing justifications that all sounded hollow. He's rich. He won't miss it. He left it behind. Finders keepers. My mother is dying. But underneath all the rationalizations, Lena heard her mother's voice from a decade ago, when Lena had stolen a candy bar from a convenience store on a dare. We might be poor, baby, but we're not thieves. Our integrity is the only thing nobody can take from us unless we give it away. Her mother had marched her back to that store, made her apologize, made her work it off by sweeping the floor for a week. Integrity is the only thing nobody can take from us unless we give it away. Lena picked up the wallet and grabbed her keys. The address on Adrian Moretti's driver's license led her to a part of the city that didn't have streetlights because it had private security instead. Gated communities, mansions set back from the road, the kind of wealth that didn't need to advertise itself. The guard at the entrance to Moretti's street looked at her beat-up Honda Civic like it had personally offended him. I'm here to return something to Mr. Moretti, Lena said, holding up the wallet. He left it at the restaurant. The guard's expression shifted from contempt to calculation. He made a phone call, spoke in low tones, then waved her through with directions that she barely followed. The house, no, mansion, sat at the end of a tree-lined drive. It was modern, all glass and steel and sharp angles, lit from within like a glowing architectural model. Lena's car looked like a broken toy in the circular driveway. She sat there for a full minute, gathering courage, before she forced herself out and up the stone steps to the massive front door. Before she could knock, it opened. A man stood there, built like a linebacker, wearing a suit that couldn't hide the bulk of muscle underneath. His eyes were flat, professional, and utterly cold. "Ms. Hart?" She startled. "How did you—" "Mr. Moretti is expecting you." He stepped aside. "This way." Expecting her. The words sent a chill down her spine that had nothing to do with the night air. The interior of the house was exactly what she'd imagined. Expensive, minimalist, more like an art gallery than a home. Her footsteps echoed on marble floors as the security guard led her through a hallway lined with paintings she suspected were originals. They emerged into a living room that was larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, lights spreading out like fallen stars. And standing in front of those windows, a glass of whiskey in his hand, was Adrian Moretti. He'd changed out of the suit into dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Somehow, he looked more dangerous this way, less businessman, more something else, something predatory. "Ms. Hart." He turned, and those gray eyes found her immediately. "I wondered how long it would take you." "I found your wallet," she said, holding it out like a shield. "In the parking lot. I wanted to return it." He didn't move to take it. Instead, he gestured to a chair, a piece of modern furniture that probably cost more than her car. "Please sit." "I should go. I just wanted to make sure you got this back." "I insist." It wasn't a request. Lena sat. The leather was butter soft, molding to her body. Adrian settled into the chair across from her, close enough that she could see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes. "You opened it," he said. Not a question. Lena felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I needed to see who it belonged to. And you saw how much cash was inside." Her throat went dry. "Yes." "How much?" "I didn't count it." "Estimate." 10,000. Maybe more." He took a sip of his whiskey, studying her over the rim of the glass. "You know what most people would have done, Lena Hart?" She said nothing. "They would have kept it. Told themselves I could afford to lose it, that it was fate or luck or karma." He set the glass down with a soft click. "You're not most people." "I'm not a thief." "No." Something flickered in his expression. Approval? Satisfaction? "You're not. Even though you need the money desperately, even though your mother is dying and the hospital bills are crushing you, even though that wallet could have bought you months of breathing room." The room tilted. "How do you know about my mother?" Adrian stood, walked to the windows, hands in his pockets. When he spoke, his voice was almost gentle. "I know a great many things, Lena. I know you work 60-hour weeks at a restaurant that underpays you. I know you haven't bought yourself new clothes in 2 years. I know you eat 1 meal a day so your mother can have 2. I know you're drowning and nobody's thrown you a rope. You've been watching me." It should have sounded like an accusation, but it came out like a realization. "Yes." The casual admission was somehow more terrifying than a lie would have been. "Why?" He turned back to face her, and in the city lights behind him, he looked like something out of a myth, beautiful and terrible and utterly beyond her understanding. "Because 3 months ago I walked into that restaurant for a business dinner. I happened to see you serving tables, and for just a moment I thought I saw my mother." Lena's hands gripped the arms of the chair. "What?" "She's been dead for 20 years. But you have her eyes, her cheekbones, the same way of moving like you're apologizing for taking up space." His voice went distant. "It was just a resemblance, a trick of light. But it made me curious, so I looked into you." "That's insane." "Yes," he agreed. "It is. But I'm a man who indulges his curiosity no matter how insane." Lena stood, every instinct screaming at her to run. "I should go." "The wallet was a test." She froze. Adrian walked toward her, slowly, like approaching a skittish animal. I wanted to know what kind of person you were, whether the honesty I saw in you was real or just another mask people wear. So I left the wallet behind deliberately, left it where you'd find it, with enough money to solve your immediate problems. You wanted to see if I'd steal from you. I wanted to see if you'd prove me right about you. And you did. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Lena Hart, I have a proposition for you. No. The word came out stronger than she felt. You haven't heard it yet. I don't need to. This is... She gestured helplessly at the room, at him, at the impossible situation. This is crazy. You're crazy. I'm leaving. She made it 3 steps toward the door before his voice stopped her. I'll pay for your mother's treatment, all of it. The experimental protocol, the specialists, the hospital bills, everything. Lena's legs locked. I'll pay you $200,000 a year to work as my personal assistant. You'll have full benefits, a company car, an apartment in the city. Your mother will have round-the-clock care. She turned slowly. Why? Because I need someone I can trust. Someone whose loyalty can't be bought, because I've learned tonight that your integrity isn't for sale. He tilted his head slightly. And because I'm curious what you'll become when you're not drowning. I don't understand what you do, what you want me to assist with. I run several businesses, import, export, investments. You'd manage my schedule, handle confidential communications, attend meetings. Think of it as being highly paid to be organized and discreet. It sounded too simple, too good. Every survival instinct Lena had developed growing up poor screamed that nothing came without a cost. What's the catch? A slight smile touched his lips. You're smart to ask. The catch is that my world is dangerous. The people I do business with are not kind. If you work for me, you'll see things that might frighten you. You'll need to be absolutely trustworthy because the information you'll have access to could get people killed. Are you... She couldn't say the word. A criminal? He said it for her. I operate in gray areas. I bend rules that I think are unjust. I've hurt people who deserved hurting. But I'm not a monster, Lena. I don't traffic in human suffering. I don't prey on the weak. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. That's the test, isn't it? I trusted you with $10,000, and you proved worthy of that trust. Now you have to decide if you trust me with your life. Lena looked around the beautiful, cold room, thought about her mother's labored breathing, thought about the hospital bills stacked on their kitchen counter, thought about the bone-deep exhaustion of working yourself to death for poverty wages, thought about the way Adrian Moretti looked at her, not through her, but at her, like she was real, like she mattered. I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take the wallet, consider it a show of good faith. The money inside is yours, regardless of your decision. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. Call me when you've decided. But Lena? Yes? Don't take too long. Your mother doesn't have time for you to waste it. The words were cruel in their accuracy. Lena took the wallet, took the card, and walked out of the mansion on legs that felt disconnected from her body. The security guard drove her car to the gate for her. She'd been shaking too hard to drive herself. She sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner for 2 hours, staring at the wallet full of money and the business card with a phone number. She thought about her mother, about integrity, about the difference between a gift and a trap. She thought about the way Adrian Moretti had admitted to watching her, to testing her, without a hint of shame. The calculated nature of it should have repulsed her. Instead, it felt almost honest. He'd shown her exactly who he was, a man who manipulated circumstances to get what he wanted. But what did he want? An assistant? Or something else? Lena pulled out her phone and looked up Adrian Moretti. The search results were sparse, carefully curated. A few photos at charity galas, always in the background. Mentions in business journals about successful acquisitions. Nothing concrete, nothing damning, nothing comforting either. She drove home as the sun started to rise, exhausted and wired at once. Her mother was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her morning pills. Baby, you look terrible. Rough shift? Lena sat down across from her and placed the wallet on the table. Mom, I need to tell you something, and then I need you to help me decide if I'm about to make the biggest mistake of my life. She told her everything. The forgotten wallet, the test, the proposition. Her mother listened without interrupting, her thin fingers wrapped around a mug of tea. When Lena finished, her mother was quiet for a long time. "This man," she finally said, "Adrian, when you talk about him, what do you feel?" Lena had expected questions about safety, about red flags, about the money. Not this. "I don't know, scared, curious, like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff and I can't see the bottom." Her mother nodded slowly. "When your father left us, I had a choice. I could have gone back to my parents, let them support us, but they would have controlled everything, where we lived, how you were raised, who I was allowed to be, or I could strike out on my own, work hard, struggle, but be free. You chose freedom. I chose agency, the right to make my own mistakes." She reached across the table and took Lena's hand. "Baby, I'm dying. We both know it. And the thought of leaving you alone, struggling like I did, breaks my heart every single day." "Mom, let me finish. This man, he's offering you a chance. Maybe it's dangerous. Maybe he's not what he seems. But you'll have resources, connections, a way out of the cycle we've been trapped in. And if it goes wrong..." She squeezed Lena's fingers. "You're smart enough to survive. You're strong enough to walk away. I raised you to be both." Tears blurred Lena's vision. "What if I'm making a mistake?" "Then you'll make it with your eyes open, and you'll learn from it." "But Lena, I don't think you are. I think this scares you because it's the first time in your life something good is being offered without you having to break yourself to earn it." They sat together as the sun came up, mother and daughter, making a choice that would change everything. But Lena called the number on the business card at 9 a.m. Adrian answered on the first ring. "Lena, I'll do it. I'll work for you." A pause. Then, "You won't regret this." "I hope you're right. Come to my office tomorrow at 10. We'll handle the paperwork, and I'll have my people start making arrangements for your mother's care. The apartment will be ready by the end of the week." "This is really happening." "Yes." His voice softened almost imperceptibly. "Welcome to my world, Lena Hart. Try not to let it eat you alive." He hung up before she could respond. Lena stared at her phone, heart racing, feeling like she'd just signed a contract without reading the fine print. But her mother was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. "We're going to be okay," her mother said. Lena wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that Adrian Moretti's world was just business and schedules and confidential emails. Wanted to believe the test was over and she'd passed. But deep down, in the part of her that had learned to read people through years of invisible waitressing, she knew the truth. The test wasn't over. It had only just begun. The apartment Adrian provided wasn't just an upgrade. It was a different universe. 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, furniture that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Lena stood in the empty living room 3 days after accepting his offer, holding a single box of her belongings, and felt like an imposter. "Ms. Hart?" A woman's voice came from the doorway. She was older, maybe 60, with silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun and the kind of posture that came from years of ballet or military service. "I'm Elena Volkov. Mr. Moretti asked me to help you settle in." Lena set down her box. "That's really not necessary. I don't have much." Elena's smile was kind but firm. "Nevertheless, your mother arrived at the care facility an hour ago. The doctors are beginning her assessment now. Mr. Moretti thought you'd want to know." The relief hit Lena so hard she had to sit down. Her mother, finally getting real medical attention, finally safe. "Are you all right?" Elena moved closer, concerned. "Yes, Lena pressed her palms to her eyes. "I didn't think this was real until right now. It's real, and you'll learn that when Mr. Moretti makes a promise, he keeps it." Elena gestured to the kitchen. "I've stocked the refrigerator and pantry. Your work wardrobe will be delivered this evening, Mr." Moretti's stylist took the liberty of selecting appropriate attire. "If anything doesn't fit, simply let me know." Lena looked down at her thrift store jeans. "I don't even know what appropriate means in his world." "You'll learn quickly. You strike me as someone who adapts well." Elena pulled out a tablet and began scrolling. "Your first day is tomorrow. Mr. Moretti will expect you at his office at 9 a.m. sharp. The address is already programmed into your new phone." New phone?" Elena produced a sleek smartphone from her bag. "Your old number has been transferred. This one is encrypted and secure. All communication related to Mr. Moretti's business must go through this device. Never use your personal email or social media to discuss anything work-related. In fact, I'd suggest limiting your social media presence altogether. The first flutter of unease moved through Lena's stomach. Why? Because people watch Mr. Moretti. They'll notice you, study you, look for weaknesses. Elena's expression softened at whatever she saw in Lena's face. I don't mean to frighten you, dear, but it's better you understand now. This job comes with complications. What kind of complications? The kind that require a security detail. Elena tapped the tablet. Marcus Chen will be your driver and bodyguard. He'll pick you up at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Don't leave the building without him. Lena stood abruptly. Wait, bodyguard? Adrian said I'd be managing his schedule, not... And you will, but you'll also have access to sensitive information. You'll attend meetings with people who don't trust easily. Some of them won't like that Mr. Moretti has brought in an outsider. Elena met her gaze steadily. Your safety is a priority. Marcus is very good at his job. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer. Lena walked to the windows, looking out at the city spread below her. From up here, everything looked clean, organized, manageable. She couldn't see the struggling waitresses or the dying mothers or the impossible choices. Can I ask you something? Lena said without turning around. Of course. How long have you worked for Adrian? 15 years? And in all that time, has he ever done this before? Brought someone in like this? A long pause. Then quietly, no. You're the first. Lena closed her eyes. Special treatment was either a gift or a target on her back. She was beginning to suspect it might be both. The next morning, Lena stood in front of her new closet, staring at clothes that cost more than her monthly rent used to. The stylist had chosen well, elegant but professional, nothing too flashy. She selected a charcoal dress with a structured jacket, paired it with low heels she could actually walk in, and tried to recognize herself in the mirror. The girl looking back wasn't the exhausted waitress anymore. She looked competent, put together, like someone who belonged in Adrian Moretti's world. The lie was so convincing she almost believed it. Marcus Chen was waiting in the lobby at exactly 8:30. He was shorter than she'd expected, maybe 5'8", with the compact build of a gymnast and eyes that never stopped moving. When he opened the car door for her, a black SUV with tinted windows, his jacket shifted enough for her to see the gun holstered at his side. Morning, Miss Hart? His voice was neutral, professional. Traffic's light today. We'll be there in 20 minutes. Lena slid into the back seat, her hands shaking slightly. You can call me Lena. I'd prefer to keep things formal, if that's all right. He met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Helps maintain boundaries. Boundaries between what? Between protection and friendship. Friendship makes you hesitate. Hesitation gets people killed. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. I'm here to keep you safe, Ms. Hart, not to be your friend. It should have been cold, but somehow it was reassuring. Marcus Chen knew exactly what he was and didn't pretend otherwise. That kind of honesty was rare. They drove through parts of the city Lena had only seen from a distance. The business district, where buildings competed to touch the sky. Marcus pulled into an underground garage beneath a tower of steel and glass, showed credentials to 3 different security checkpoints, and finally parked in a space marked simply with an M. Stick close, he said as they entered an elevator with no buttons, just a biometric scanner that read his palm print. The top 3 floors are Mr. Moretti's private offices. You'll have clearance by end of day, but until then, you're with me. The elevator rose so smoothly, Lena barely felt the movement. When the doors opened, she stepped into a reception area that looked like something from a movie. Marble floors, modern art on the walls, a reception desk made of what looked like a single piece of polished stone. Behind the desk sat a woman who could have been a model, tall, elegant, with auburn hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You must be Lena Hart. I'm Vivian Cross, Director of Operations. She stood extending a manicured hand. Welcome to Moretti Enterprises. Lena shook her hand, feeling underdressed despite the expensive clothes. Thank you. Mr. Moretti is in a meeting, but he's asked me to show you to your office and get you oriented. Vivian's gaze traveled over Lena with the precision of a jeweler examining a stone. This way. They walked down a hallway lined with glass-walled offices. People worked at sleek desks, talked on phones in hushed voices, moved with the purposeful efficiency of a well-oiled machine. A few glanced up as they passed, their expressions curious or calculating. Vivian stopped at a door near the end of the hall. "This is you." The office was smaller than the others, but still larger than Lena's bedroom in her old apartment. A desk, a computer, a view of the city. On the desk sat a leather folder with her name embossed in gold. "Your orientation materials," Vivian said. "Passwords, protocols, emergency contacts. I'd suggest reviewing them thoroughly. Mr. Moretti values discretion above all else." "I understand." "Do you?" Vivian tilted her head slightly. "I wonder. You see, we've all worked very hard to earn our positions here. We've proven ourselves over years of service. And then you arrive with no experience, no background in this industry, and you're given direct access to Mr. Moretti." She smiled, sharp as a knife. "It's unusual." Lena met her gaze steadily. "I don't pretend to understand why he chose me, but I plan to work hard and prove I deserve to be here." "I'm sure you do." Vivian turned to leave, then paused. "A word of advice, Lena. In this world, everyone wants something. The sooner you figure out what you want, the easier it will be to recognize when others want to take it from you." She left before Lena could respond. Lena sat down at her new desk, opened the leather folder, and began to read. Protocols for secure communication, lists of contacts with brief bios, business partners, lawyers, accountants. A schedule of Adrian's meetings for the next month, each entry coded with a color she didn't understand yet. She was 3 pages in when the door opened again. Adrian Moretti filled the doorway, wearing a navy suit that made his gray eyes look like storm clouds. He studied her for a moment, then smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to almost warm. "Lena, how are you settling in?" She stood automatically. "Fine. Thank you. The apartment is beautiful, and my mother," her voice caught. "Thank you for taking care of her." "I keep my promises." He stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. "I spoke with her doctors this morning. They're optimistic about the new treatment protocol. She's strong." "She is." Lena blinked back unexpected tears. "I've been so focused on keeping her alive, I forgot what hope felt like." Adrian's expression softened in a way that made him look younger, more human. "You've carried a lot alone. That ends now. You have resources, support. You don't have to do everything yourself anymore." The kindness was harder to handle than the intensity had been. Lena looked away, busying herself with the folder. "So what exactly does a personal assistant to Adrian Moretti do?" "Today, you observe, learn the rhythm of how things work. Tomorrow, you'll start managing my calendar, screening calls, sitting in on meetings." He leaned against her desk, casual in a way that somehow made him more imposing. "Next week, you'll attend your first negotiation with me. I'm acquiring a shipping company. It should be straightforward, but I want you there to see how I work." "Will I need to do anything?" "Watch. Listen. Take notes if it helps. The real education comes from observation." He paused, studying her. "Vivian gave you the warning speech, didn't she?" Lena's surprise must have shown on her face because Adrian laughed, a low, genuine sound. "She does that with everyone new. Vivian's been with me for 8 years. She's protective of this organization and skeptical of outsiders. It's part of what makes her good at her job. She thinks I haven't earned my place here." "She's right. You haven't. Not yet." Adrian said it without cruelty, just honesty. "But I didn't bring you here because you've earned it. I brought you here because I believe you will. There's a difference between proving yourself to get in the door and proving yourself once you're inside. What if I can't? What if I'm not smart enough or quick enough, or then I've made a mistake? It won't be the first time, and it won't be the last." He straightened, adjusting his cuffs. "But I don't think I have. You survived years of impossible circumstances without breaking. That takes a different kind of intelligence than business school teaches." A knock at the door interrupted them. Marcus stepped inside. "Sir, Victor Russo is here for the 11 o'clock. Something changed in Adrian's face. A shuddering, like a door closing. "Already? We have 15 minutes. "He arrived early. Said he'd wait." "Of course he did." Adrian's voice went cold, controlled. He looked at Lena. Change of plans. You're sitting in on this meeting. Alarm spiked through her. I'm not ready. You don't need to be ready. You need to be present. He was already moving toward the door. Marcus, bring her to conference room A in 5 minutes. Lena, whatever you see or hear in that meeting, you don't react. You don't speak unless directly asked a question. And you don't, under any circumstances, show fear. Understood? Who is Victor Russo? Adrian paused in the doorway. Someone who will be very interested in you, which is why I want him to meet you now, on my terms, in my space. 5 minutes. He left, and Lena was alone with Marcus, her heart hammering. What just happened? She asked. Marcus's expression was unreadable. You're about to meet the kind of people Mr. Moretti does business with. Stay close to me. Don't make eye contact with Russo or any of his men unless they speak to you directly. And remember, you're under Mr. Moretti's protection. As long as you're in this building, you're safe. And outside this building, that's what I'm for. He gestured to the door. Come on. Don't want to keep them waiting. The conference room was at the far end of the floor, behind a door that required both a key card and a thumbprint to open. Marcus escorted her inside, then took a position against the wall, his hands clasped in front of him, his eyes alert. The room was dominated by a long glass table. Adrian sat at the head, perfectly composed, with 2 men flanking him, both large, both watchful. Across from them sat 3 other men. The one in the center commanded immediate attention. He was older than Adrian, maybe 50, with silver-streaked dark hair and a face that had once been handsome but was now marked by too many years of easy violence. He wore an expensive suit with the casual arrogance of someone who'd never had to work for anything. When he saw Lena, his eyes lit up with interest. Well. His voice was smooth, cultured, with an accent that matched Adrian's. You didn't mention you'd hired new staff. Lena is my personal assistant. Adrian's tone gave nothing away. Lena, this is Victor Russo. We have business interests that occasionally overlap. Occasionally. Victor smiled, and it was the smile of a shark that had just smelled blood. How diplomatic. Please, my dear, sit. Any friend of Adrian's is most welcome. Lena took the chair that Marcus pulled out for her, positioned slightly behind and to the left of Adrian. From this angle, she could see both men's faces, watch the way they watched each other. I trust your trip from Rome was pleasant? Adrian said. Tedious, but necessary. Victor leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I wanted to discuss the Port Authority contract you've been pursuing. I understand you submitted a bid. I did. So did I. And I'm here to suggest we pool our resources instead of competing, a partnership, if you will. I prefer to work alone. Yes, I know. You've made quite a reputation as a lone wolf. Victor's gaze slid to Lena. But everyone needs a pack eventually. Isn't that right, my dear? Adrian's voice cut across the table like a blade. Don't speak to her. Speak to me. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Victor's men shifted slightly, hands moving toward jackets. Marcus's posture didn't change, but Lena sensed the coiled tension in him, ready to spring. Victor laughed, breaking the moment. Protective already? Adrian, you surprise me. I thought you'd learn not to show weakness. Claiming what's mine isn't weakness, it's clarity. Adrian's gray eyes were flat, emotionless. The Port Authority contract is mine. Find another opportunity. That's not how this works, and you know it. The families have rules. The families have suggestions. I follow the ones that suit me and ignore the rest. Adrian stood, the meeting clearly over. Thank you for coming, Victor. Marcus will show you out. Victor didn't move. Instead, he looked at Lena with undisguised curiosity. What's your name, sweetheart? Lena's throat went dry. Adrian had said not to speak, but Victor had asked her a direct question. She glanced at Adrian, whose expression gave her nothing. Lena Hart, she finally said, keeping her voice steady. Lena Hart. Pretty name. Tell me, how does a girl like you end up working for a man like Adrian? Talent, Adrian answered for her, and loyalty. 2 things you understand well, Victor. Oh, I understand loyalty very well. I also understand how quickly it can be, tested. Victor stood, buttoning his jacket. It was lovely to meet you, Lena. I suspect we'll be seeing much more of each other. He left with his men, Marcus following to ensure they actually departed. The moment the door closed, Adrian turned to Lena. How do you feel? She wanted to say fine, but her hands were shaking in her lap. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you alert. He sat down across from her, his intensity focused entirely on her face. Victor Russo is one of the most dangerous men in this city. He runs trafficking operations, extortion rackets, and has enough politicians in his pocket to avoid prosecution. I do business with him when I must, and avoid him when I can. Why did you want me in that meeting? Because now he knows about you. And because he knows I claimed you in front of witnesses, he'll think twice before trying to use you against me. The words claimed you sent a chill down her spine. What does that mean? It means you're under my protection. It means anyone who touches you answers to me. In this world, Lena, that's the safest thing you can be. He leaned forward. But it also means you're now visible. People will notice you, study you, look for ways to leverage you. Your life just became more complicated. I thought I was just managing your calendar. You are. But you're also learning to survive in a world where calendars include meetings with men like Victor Russo. Adrian's expression softened slightly. I won't lie to you, Lena. This is dangerous. But you're safer with me than you would be struggling alone. And in time, you'll learn to navigate this world as well as I do. What if I don't want to? Then you can leave. I'll uphold my end of our agreement. Your mother's care, the apartment, everything. You'll be taken care of, but I don't think you'll leave. He stood, straightening his jacket. Because for the first time in your life, you're not invisible. And part of you likes that, even though it terrifies you. He was right, and that was the most frightening thing of all. Because when Victor Russo had looked at her, really looked at her, part of her had felt powerful, seen, important. The feeling was intoxicating and dangerous in equal measure. The weeks that followed blurred together in a cascade of new experiences. Lena learned to manage Adrian's schedule with precision, to screen calls with the right mix of politeness and authority, to dress in clothes that cost more than she used to make in a month. She learned the coded language of Adrian's calendar. Red meetings were with legitimate business contacts, blue were with people in legal gray areas, black were meetings she was not to mention to anyone, ever. She attended negotiations where millions changed hands with the stroke of a pen. Watched Adrian dismantle opponents with words alone, his intelligence a weapon more dangerous than any gun. Sat in restaurants where the other diners paid more for a single meal than her mother's monthly medication used to cost. And through it all, Adrian was teaching her. Not with lectures, but with experience. Why did you give in so easily on the Beijing contract? She asked after one particularly tense video conference. They were in his private office, the city glittering below them in the evening darkness. Adrian poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if she wanted one, handed her one, and settled into the chair across from his desk. Because the Beijing contract doesn't matter. What matters is that Chen Industries now thinks I'm weak on international deals, which means when I negotiate the Singapore acquisition next month, they'll underestimate me. He took a sip, watching her over the rim. Sometimes losing small battles wins larger wars. Lena considered this, turning her glass in her hands. You're always 3 steps ahead. 5, usually, but who's counting? A slight smile. You're learning quickly. Vivian mentioned you handled the Carlisle situation well yesterday. The Carlisle situation had involved a furious client who'd shown up unannounced, demanding to see Adrian immediately. Lena had calmly rescheduled his next 3 appointments, arranged a dinner meeting for that evening at Carlisle's favorite restaurant, and sent his wife flowers with a note from Adrian apologizing for the inconvenience. Carlisle had left happy. Vivian's warming up to me? She's warming up to the fact that you're competent. She still doesn't trust you, but she respects your work. From Vivian, that's high praise. Lena took a sip of the whiskey, felt it burn down her throat. 6 weeks ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was drinking expensive alcohol in a penthouse office, discussing business strategy with a man who moved through the world like a king. Can I ask you something personal? The whiskey made her brave. Adrian raised an eyebrow. You can ask. I may not answer. Why did I really remind you of your mother? What was she like? The question sat between them, heavy and intimate. Adrian was quiet for so long Lena thought he wouldn't answer. Then he stood, walked to the windows, his back to her. My mother was a seamstress in Naples, beautiful, gentle, completely unsuited for the life my father dragged her into. His voice was carefully controlled. He was a soldier in the Camorra, organized crime. She knew what he was when she married him, but she thought love would change him. It didn't. What happened to her? A rival family decided to send my father a message. They broke into our home when I was 8. I hid in a closet while they... He stopped, his shoulders rigid. They made sure my father understood the cost of betrayal. Then they burned the house down. I survived. She didn't. Lena's chest tightened. Adrian, I'm so sorry. Don't be. It was 28 years ago, and it taught me the most important lesson of my life. In this world, love makes you vulnerable. The people you care about become weapons others can use against you. He turned back to face her, and his eyes were dark with old pain. That's why when I saw you, looking so much like her, I had to know if you were strong enough to survive if someone tried to use you the same way. The test. Yes. And you passed. Not just by returning the wallet, but by accepting my offer, even though you were afraid. By sitting in meetings with men like Victor Russo without breaking. By adapting to this world faster than anyone I've ever seen. He walked back toward her, stopping close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. You're not like her, Lena. You're stronger, and that's why you're still here. The air between them felt charged, electric. Lena's pulse hammered in her throat. This close, she could see the faint scar along his jawline, smell the expensive cologne mixed with whiskey, and something darker, more dangerous. What am I to you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Really? I don't know yet. His honesty was brutal and thrilling. But I'm trying to figure it out. The phone on his desk rang, shattering the moment. Adrian moved away to answer it, his voice shifting back to cool professionalism. Lena stood on shaking legs and quietly left his office, her heart racing. She was halfway home before she realized she was still holding the glass of whiskey. The call came at 3 a.m. Lena jolted awake, fumbling for her phone, the encrypted one Adrian had given her. Hello? Ms. Hart, it's Marcus. I'm outside your building. Get dressed and pack a bag. We're leaving in 10 minutes. What? Why? What's happening? There's been a situation. Mr. Moretti wants you somewhere safe until it's resolved. 10 minutes, Miss Hart. Don't bring anything electronic except your phone. He hung up. Lena sat in the darkness, her mind racing. A situation. Safe. The words from her first day came back to her. My world is dangerous. She dressed quickly, threw clothes into a bag without thinking, grabbed her phone and charger. Was starting for the door when she remembered and ran back for the photo of her mother she kept on her nightstand. Marcus was waiting in the SUV, the engine running. The moment she climbed in, he pulled away from the curb, driving fast through empty streets. Marcus, what's going on? Victor Russo made a move against one of Mr. Moretti's shipments. 3 people are dead, including one of ours. Mr. Moretti is handling it, but until we know if Russo plans to escalate, you're being moved to a secure location. Fear, cold and sharp, cut through her. Is Adrian safe? Mr. Moretti can take care of himself. My job is taking care of you. Marcus turned onto a highway, heading out of the city. There's a safe house 2 hours north. You'll stay there with round-the-clock security until this is resolved. How long? Could be days, could be weeks. Depends on how this plays out. They drove in silence, the city falling away behind them, replaced by darkness and trees. Lena's mind spun with questions she didn't have answers for. 3 people dead. Victor Russo, who'd looked at her with predatory interest in that conference room. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sorry about the abrupt relocation. Necessary precaution. You're safe. I'll call when I can. Hey, she typed back. Are you okay? The response came immediately. Worried about me, Lena? Despite everything, she smiled. Maybe. Don't be. This is just business. Unpleasant, but manageable. Get some rest. Marcus will take good care of you. She wanted to ask more questions, demand real answers, insist on knowing what was happening. But she remembered her first lesson in Adrian's world. Sometimes survival meant trusting the people whose job it was to keep you alive. The safe house turned out to be a cabin in the woods, isolated and beautiful in the moonlight. 2 men were already there. Security, Marcus informed her. and the cabin was stocked with everything she might need. "Get some sleep," Marcus said. "I'll be right outside your door." "Thank you." Lena touched his arm impulsively. "For keeping me safe." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the professional armor. "It's my job, Ms. Hart. But you're welcome." She went inside, locked the door, and sat on the bed in the unfamiliar room. 3 people were dead. Adrian was somewhere in the city, dealing with violence she couldn't imagine. And she was here, hidden away like something precious that needed protecting. When had she become someone worth protecting? When had her life become something people died for? Lena lay down, still dressed, and stared at the ceiling. 6 weeks ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was caught up in a war between dangerous men, and the most terrifying part was how quickly she'd adapted, how quickly she'd started to belong. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Adrian. "Sleep. Tomorrow, this will all be handled, and you'll be back to managing my impossible schedule." She typed, "Promise?" His response made her chest tight. "I promise, Lena. You're safe. You'll always be safe with me." She fell asleep holding her phone, trusting a promise from a man she barely knew, and wondering when exactly she'd stopped being afraid of Adrian Moretti and started being afraid of losing him. The safe house felt like a luxurious prison. Lena woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. Victor Russo. 3 dead. Adrian somewhere in the city, cleaning up the mess. She found Marcus in the kitchen, pouring coffee like this was a normal morning and not the aftermath of violence. "Any news?" she asked. Mr. Moretti handled the immediate situation. "Russo's been contained for now." Marcus handed her a mug. "But you're staying put until he gives the all clear. Could be another day or 2. Lena wrapped her hands around the warmth, staring out the window at the endless trees. What does contained mean? It means Russo understands there will be consequences if he makes another move. Whether he respects those consequences remains to be seen. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. "I need to take this. Don't leave the house." He stepped outside, leaving Lena alone with her thoughts and growing restlessness. She'd spent her whole life working, moving, surviving. Sitting still felt wrong. Dangerous even, like giving her mind too much time to question everything she'd accepted in the past 6 weeks. Her phone rang. Adrian's name flashed across the screen, and her heart jumped. "Are you okay?" The words tumbled out before she could stop them. His low laugh traveled through the line. "I should be asking you that. How's the safe house treating you?" "Like a 5-star jail cell." She moved to the window, watching Marcus pace outside, his expression grim. "When can I come back?" "Soon. Russo's making noise about wanting a meeting. Neutral ground. Just talk. I'm considering it." "Is that safe?" "Probably not, but necessary." A pause, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I'm sorry you got pulled into this, Lena. This is exactly the kind of complication I hoped to avoid. You told me your world was dangerous. I believed you. Believing and experiencing are different things. How's your mother?" The question caught her off guard. "I called the facility this morning. They said she's responding well to treatment. She's asking when she can see me." "Soon, when it's safe." The sound of voices in the background. Then Adrian's voice muffled, as if he'd covered the phone. When he came back, he sounded distracted. "I have to go. Marcus will keep you updated. And Lena, stay inside, no matter what." Adrian, but he'd already hung up. She spent the day restless, pacing the cabin like a caged animal. The other security guards, James and Dimitri, played cards in the corner, their conversation low and intermittent. Marcus remained outside, constantly on his phone, his body language growing more tense as the hours passed. By evening, Lena couldn't take it anymore. She pushed open the door, stepping onto the porch. Marcus immediately turned. "Ms. Hart, I asked you to stay inside." "I needed air. I'm going crazy in there." She leaned against the railing, breathing in pine-scented wind. "What's happening? And don't tell me everything's fine. I can see it's not." Marcus studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Russo agreed to the meeting, tomorrow afternoon downtown at the Astoria Hotel. "Mr. Moretti's going." "That's good, right? If they're talking, Talking can be a setup. Russo's been too quiet since the attack. It makes people nervous. Does Adrian know that? Mr. Moretti knows everything. Doesn't mean he won't go anyway. Sometimes you have to walk into the trap to prove you're not afraid of it. Marcus glanced at his phone again, cursed under his breath. We might have a problem. What kind of problem? Before Marcus could answer, the sound of engines cut through the evening quiet. Not one vehicle, several, approaching fast on the dirt road that led to the cabin. Marcus's entire body went rigid. Inside. Now. What? Now. The urgency in his voice sent Lena scrambling back through the door. Marcus was right behind her, already shouting at James and Dimitri. We've got company. 4 vehicles, maybe 5. Get her to the safe room. James grabbed Lena's arm, pulling her toward the back of the cabin. Come on. What's happening? Her voice pitched high with fear. Safe room. Move. They reached a door she'd assumed was a closet. James yanked it open, revealing stairs descending into darkness. He flicked a switch, illuminating a small concrete room below, windowless, with steel reinforcements on the walls. Down. Stay quiet no matter what you hear. Don't come out until I personally come get you. Understand? Above them, the sound of vehicles screeching to a stop. Shouts in Italian, Marcus's voice calm and authoritative, calling out something Lena couldn't make out. I said, do you understand? James shook her slightly. Yes. Yes. I understand. Good girl. Now go. Lena descended into the safe room, her legs shaking so badly she nearly fell. The door closed above her with a heavy thunk, followed by the sound of locks engaging. Then silence, broken only by her ragged breathing. She sank onto the narrow bench against the wall, straining to hear what was happening above. Muffled voices, getting louder, an argument in Italian, rapid-fire and angry. Then Marcus again, speaking English, his tone carefully neutral. This is private property. You're not welcome here. A new voice, smooth and familiar. Ah, but Marcus Chen, we both know that's not true. We're here for something that belongs to Mr. Moretti, and we intend to take it. Victor Russo. Lena's blood turned to ice. You're making a mistake, Marcus said. Mr. Moretti will negotiate, just as I've always known he would. He's grown soft, Marcus, soft and sentimental. All because of a girl with a pretty face who reminds him of ghosts. Russo's laugh was cold. Where is she? Not here. Lying doesn't suit you. We tracked the vehicle. We know she's inside. The sound of boots on wooden floors, footsteps moving through the cabin, searching. Lena pressed her hand over her mouth, fighting to keep her breathing quiet. Safe room's locked, someone called out. Reinforced door, biometric scanner. Of course it is. Adrian's thorough, I'll give him that. Russo's voice grew closer, right above her hiding spot. Ms. Hart, can you hear me? I'm not here to hurt you. I simply want to talk. Woman to several men with guns, but let's not focus on semantics. Lena stayed silent, her heart hammering so hard she was sure they could hear it. Very well. We'll do this the difficult way. Chen, you have 30 seconds to open that door, or I start shooting your men. Your choice. She's under Mr. Moretti's protection. Touching her is a death sentence. Oh, I'm counting on it. That's rather the point. A pause. 20 seconds. You won't get away with this. 15. Russo. 10, 9, 8. Marcus's voice strained. Don't! 7, 6. A gunshot split the air. Lena flinched, biting down on her hand to keep from screaming. That was a warning, Russo said pleasantly. Next one goes in someone's knee. 5, 4. Another voice, James, desperate. Marcus, don't! It's not worth it. 3, 2. The sound of the biometric scanner beeping, the locks disengaging. The door above Lena opened and light flooded down the stairs. Victor Russo stood at the top, backlit and smiling. Hello, Lena. I'm so glad we could finally have that conversation. They took her out of the cabin at gunpoint. Marcus, James, and Dimitri were on their knees in the living room, hands zip-tied behind their backs. Marcus's face was a mask of controlled fury, a cut bleeding above his eye. I'm sorry, Ms. Hart, he said quietly as Russo's men pushed her past. Don't apologize, Russo said. You did exactly what Adrian would have wanted. You tried to protect her. It's admirable, really. Pointless, but admirable. He turned to Lena, his smile never wavering. Shall we? Where are you taking me? Somewhere we can talk privately. I promise you won't be harmed. Not unless Adrian forces my hand. Come along now. Two men flanked her, their grips on her arms tight but not painful. They walked her to one of the waiting SUVs, black and expensive like Adrian's. Russo slid into the back seat beside her while his men took the other positions. As they pulled away, Lena twisted to look back. Marcus was shouting something, struggling against his restraints. Then the cabin disappeared around a curve, and she was alone with the monster who'd been watching her since that first meeting. You're afraid, Russo observed. That's good. Fear is honest. Adrian's been teaching you to hide your emotions, I see. But fear is harder to mask. What do you want from me? Direct. I like that. He settled back in his seat, completely relaxed. I want Adrian to understand that his little game of empire building has consequences. For years, he's operated like he's above the rules the rest of us follow, taking territory, making deals, acting like he's not part of the larger structure. It's disrespectful. So you kidnap his assistant to teach him respect? I kidnap his weakness to remind him he's human. Russo's eyes glittered. You see, Lena, I've been in this business a long time. I've seen men rise and fall. The ones who fall? They always make the same mistake. They start caring about something more than power. A woman usually, sometimes a child. And the moment they care, they become vulnerable. I'm just his employee. Please, I saw the way he looked at you in that conference room, the way he positioned you, claimed you in front of witnesses. Adrian Moretti doesn't claim employees, my dear. He claims possessions, assets, things he intends to keep. Russo leaned closer, studying her face. It's remarkable, really. The resemblance to his mother. I knew her, briefly, before she died. Beautiful woman, gentle, completely unsuited for our world. Lena's stomach churned. You knew his mother? I was young then, new to the business, but I remember the night she died. The whole city talked about it for weeks. Carlo Moretti's wife, murdered in their home. Some said it was a message. Others said it was personal. He smiled. What they didn't talk about was the little boy who survived, the one who disappeared for years, only to return as something different, harder, colder. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know the truth about the man you've fallen for. Adrian Moretti isn't a businessman, Lena. He's a weapon someone else forged and set loose on the world. Everything he does, every move he makes, it's all calculated, including you. I don't believe you. Don't you? Tell me, how did you meet Adrian? Let me guess. You served him at a restaurant, a chance encounter, coincidence. Russo's smile widened at whatever he saw in her face. Except it wasn't coincidence, was it? He'd been watching you for months, studying you, and then one night he walks into your restaurant and leaves behind a wallet full of cash. A test, he called it. Lena's breath caught. How did Russo know about the wallet? Oh yes, I have my sources. Adrian's not as secretive as he thinks. Russo settled back, satisfied. So ask yourself, my dear, if he was watching you for months before you ever met, if he orchestrated your entire relationship from the beginning, what else has he orchestrated? Your mother's illness, perhaps? The timing was so convenient, wasn't it? Just desperate enough to accept his offer. No, but her voice shook. That's insane. Is it? Or is it exactly the kind of long-game manipulation Adrian excels at? Think, Lena. What do you actually know about him? What has he told you that you can verify? The vehicle turned onto a highway, heading back toward the city. Lena's mind raced, trying to sort truth from lies. Her mother's illness had started years ago, long before she'd ever met Adrian. But the timing of everything else, the wallet, the job offer, the way he'd swooped in exactly when she was most desperate. No. Russo was playing games, trying to break her trust in Adrian. This was psychological warfare, nothing more. You're wrong, she said, forcing strength into her voice. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. We'll see. Adrian will come for you, that much I'm certain of. And when he does, you'll see exactly what you mean to him, whether you're a person he values or just another piece on his chessboard. Russo pulled out his phone, typed a quick message. The meeting is set for tonight, the Astoria Hotel, as planned. But now it will be on my terms, not his. He'll kill you for this. He'll try. Many have tried. I'm still here. Russo's expression went cold. But I'm not interested in killing Adrian, Lena. I'm interested in controlling him, and the best way to control a man is to hold something he can't afford to lose. They drove in silence for another hour. The sun was setting when they finally pulled up to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place designed to be forgotten, surrounded by empty lots and abandoned buildings. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into something almost civilized. Furniture, lighting, even artwork on the walls. A makeshift office for conducting business far from prying eyes. Russo's men led Lena to a room in the back, smaller, windowless, with a single chair and a cot. Not a cell, exactly, but close enough. "Make yourself comfortable," Russo said. "You'll be here for a few hours. I have arrangements to make. Try not to be too frightened. As I said, you won't be harmed unless Adrian forces the issue. And if he does, then your death will be quick and painless. I'm not a monster, Lena. Just a businessman protecting his interests." He paused in the doorway. "For what it's worth, I hope it doesn't come to that. You seem like a genuinely good person. It would be a shame to waste that because Adrian values his pride more than your life." The door closed. A lock clicked. Lena was alone. She sat on the cot, forcing herself to breathe slowly, to think clearly. Panic wouldn't help. Breaking down wouldn't help. She needed to be smart. The room had no windows, but she could hear movement outside. Footsteps, low voices, the occasional ring of a phone. Russo was preparing for something. The meeting with Adrian, probably. Using her as leverage to force, what? A deal? Territory? Or just to prove he could? Her phone was gone. They'd taken it along with her bag when they'd grabbed her. No way to contact anyone, no way to call for help. She was completely dependent on Adrian coming for her. If he came for her, Russo's words echoed in her mind. "You'll see exactly what you mean to him, whether you're a person he values or just another piece on his chessboard." What if Russo was right? What if everything, the wallet, the job, the protection, was just Adrian manipulating her into position for some larger game she didn't understand? What if she'd been so desperate for security, for someone to finally see her, that she'd ignored every red flag? No. She knew Adrian, knew the way he'd looked at her in his office, the way his voice softened when he talked about her mother, knew the promises he'd made and kept. That wasn't manipulation. That was, what? Care, affection, love? Lena pressed her hands to her face. She'd worked for Adrian for 6 weeks. She barely knew him. But somehow, impossibly, she'd started to trust him, started to feel safe with him, started to imagine that maybe, just maybe, she mattered to him as more than an employee or a reminder of his dead mother. The sound of raised voices outside pulled her from her thoughts. An argument, rapid and angry. Then footsteps approaching her door. It opened, revealing one of Russo's men, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running down his left cheek. "Come on, boss wants you upstairs." Lena stood, her legs unsteady. "Why?" "Because it's time for the show." He led her up a metal staircase to what looked like an office on the second floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the warehouse floor below, and standing at those windows, watching something Lena couldn't see, was Victor Russo. "Ah, Lena, come, look." He gestured to the window. "Your knight in shining armor has arrived." Lena's heart stopped. Below, the warehouse doors had been opened. A single black SUV sat in the entrance, headlights cutting through the gathering darkness. And standing in front of it, alone and unarmed, was Adrian Moretti. He looked exactly as he had in the conference room that first day, perfectly composed, utterly in control, radiating the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly how dangerous you were. But even from this distance, Lena could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes scanned the warehouse, searching. "He came alone," Russo said, impressed. "Bold, stupid, but bold." "You said neutral ground. You said a meeting." "I lied. Did you really think I'd pass up an opportunity like this?" Russo turned to her, his smile sharp. "Watch carefully, Lena. You're about to learn exactly what Adrian Moretti is willing to sacrifice for you." Adrian's voice echoed through the warehouse, amplified somehow. "Russo, I'm here. Let her go. Russo picked up a microphone connected to a speaker system. Adrian, so good of you to join us. Please, come in, but slowly, and hands where I can see them. Adrian walked forward with measured steps, hands loose at his sides. Lena counted at least a dozen of Russo's men positioned around the warehouse, all armed. Where is she? Adrian's voice was deadly calm. Safe, for now. Russo gestured, and two men grabbed Lena by the arms, pulling her to the window where Adrian could see her. See? Unharmed. Frightened, but unharmed. Adrian's eyes found her, and even across the distance, Lena felt the impact of his gaze. Something fierce and protective blazed in those gray eyes, something that made Russo's insinuations feel like the lies they were. Let her go, Victor. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Have I? I'm not sure you understand yet. Russo leaned into the microphone. You've been taking liberties, Adrian, operating like you're above the structure, above the rules. I'm here to remind you that no one is above the families. No one. I've never claimed to be part of the families. Exactly. That's the problem. You can't operate in our territory, take our contracts, interfere with our business, and claim to be independent. It doesn't work that way. Russo's voice hardened. So, here's how this ends. You give me the Port Authority contract. You give me a 40% stake in your shipping operations. And you acknowledge publicly that you answer to the Council of Families. Do that, and the girl walks free. Adrian was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was ice. No. Lena's blood froze. Russo laughed, delighted. No? You'd rather see her die than bend the knee? I'd rather burn your entire organization to the ground than give you a single inch of what I've built. Adrian took another step forward. But I'm not going to let you hurt her. So here's my counteroffer. Let Lena go right now and I'll let you live. Keep her and I'll dismantle everything you've built piece by piece until there's nothing left but ash and regret. Brave words from a man surrounded by my soldiers. Your soldiers are already dead. They just don't know it yet. The lights went out. The warehouse plunged into darkness, broken only by the headlights from Adrian's SUV. Shouts erupted from Russo's men, confused and alarmed. Russo cursed, grabbing for Lena, but the men holding her had already released her, reaching for weapons. Gunfire exploded through the warehouse, not from Russo's men, but from somewhere else. The windows above them shattered. Someone screamed. Russo shoved Lena to the floor, using her as cover. Get the lights back on! Find Moretti! But Adrian was already gone, swallowed by the darkness. The firefight lasted less than 3 minutes. In that time, Lena heard screams, thuds, the wet sound of impact. Russo's men fired blindly, hitting nothing. And through it all, she heard Adrian's voice, calm and controlled, calling out positions to people she couldn't see. North corner, 2 hostiles taken care of. Second floor office, Russo has Lena. Marcus, you're clear. East entrance secure. Extraction ready. Then the lights came back on, emergency generators kicking in. The warehouse floor was chaos. Russo's men on the ground, unconscious or worse. And standing in the center of it all, flanked by Marcus and at least a dozen heavily armed men, was Adrian. His suit was torn, blood on his knuckles, but his eyes were calm, focused. They found Lena immediately. Lena, get down! Adrian's voice cracked like a whip. She dropped flat as Russo fired over her head, using the desk as cover. Adrian didn't flinch, just raised his hand in a signal. 3 of his men moved in perfect coordination, flanking Russo's position. It's over, Victor, Adrian called out. You're outgunned, outsmarted, and out of time. Let her go. If I do, you'll kill me. Probably, but if you don't, I'll definitely kill you. At least this way you have a chance. Russo grabbed Lena by the hair, hauling her up as a shield. You want her? Come get her. Lena felt the cold press of a gun barrel against her temple. Her vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to look at Adrian, to memorize his face one last time, just in case. Adrian's expression didn't change, but his eyes held something that looked like fury and fear in equal measure. Victor, listen to me very carefully. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but it carried through the warehouse like a blade. You're holding the only thing in this world I actually care about. The only person who's made me feel human in 20 years. If you pull that trigger, there is no corner of the earth you can hide in. I will find you. And what I do to you will make what happened to my mother look merciful." Russo's grip tightened. "Empty threats. Ask anyone who's tried to cross me if my threats are empty. Ask the Mendoza cartel. Ask the Bratva. Ask anyone still alive who's seen what I do to people who take what's mine." Adrian took a step forward, his hands spread. "Or better yet, ask yourself, is whatever point you're trying to make worth dying for?" The gun barrel pressed harder against Lena's skin. She could feel Russo's hand shaking, could smell his sweat. He was trapped, and knew it. "I want safe passage," Russo finally said. "Me and my men. We walk out of here, and this ends. Done. Your word?" "My word. Let her go, and you walk." Russo hesitated for one more second, then shoved Lena forward. She stumbled, falling to her knees. Marcus was there instantly, pulling her up, pushing her behind the line of Adrian's men. Adrian didn't move, didn't take his eyes off Russo. "Go," he said quietly. Russo and his remaining men backed toward the exit, guns still drawn, watching for betrayal. They made it to their vehicles, engines roaring to life. Only when the last of them had disappeared did Adrian's shoulders drop. He turned, his eyes finding Lena across the warehouse. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Adrian was moving, crossing the distance in long strides. He pulled her into his arms without a word, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Lena buried her face in his chest, feeling the rapid hammer of his heart, breathing in the smell of gunpowder and expensive cologne, and something uniquely him. "I'm sorry," he whispered against her hair. "I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should have— You came for me." Her voice broke. "You traded everything for me." "I would have traded more." He pulled back just enough to look at her face, his hands framing her jaw. "Are you hurt? Did he—" "No, I'm fine. Scared, but fine." Adrian's thumb traced her cheekbone, and his touch was so gentle it made her want to cry. "I thought I'd lost you. Russo said things about you, about how we met." The words tumbled out. "He said you orchestrated everything, that I was just part of some long game." Something flickered in Adrian's eyes. Guilt? Recognition? "He was right," Adrian said quietly. Lena's heart stopped. "Not about your mother's illness. That was real, and I had nothing to do with it. But everything else? The wallet, the timing, even walking into that restaurant that night, I planned it all." He didn't look away, didn't try to soften it. "I saw you 3 months before we officially met, started watching you, learning about you. And yes, I orchestrated our meeting because I wanted to test you, wanted to see if you were who I thought you were." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Russo was right about one other thing. You deserve the truth, all of it." Adrian's hands dropped from her face, and suddenly he looked tired, older. "I told you I was drawn to you because you reminded me of my mother." That was true, but it was also convenient. An easy explanation that didn't require me to admit the real reason. Which is? That I was tired of being alone. Tired of living in a world where everyone wants something from me. Where every relationship is transactional. And when I saw you, this woman who worked herself to death for someone she loved, who stayed honest even when dishonesty would have saved her, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was still something good in the world, something I could— He trailed off, looking away. "Something I could keep without destroying it." Lena's chest felt too tight. "You tested me." "Yes." "You manipulated circumstances to see if I'd pass." "Yes." "And when I did, you pulled me into your world knowing it was dangerous, knowing people like Russo would notice, knowing I could get hurt." "Yes." Adrian's jaw clenched. "I told myself I'd protect you, that I'd keep you safe, but I failed. You got hurt anyway, just like I knew you would if I was selfish enough to keep you close." Lena thought about the past 6 weeks. The luxury, the education, her mother's treatment. Thought about sitting in Adrian's office, learning to navigate his world. Thought about the way he looked at her when he didn't think she was watching, like she was something precious and terrifying in equal measure. "Russo said I was just another piece on your chessboard," she said softly. "You started that way." Adrian finally met her eyes again. "But somewhere along the line you became the whole board. The game, The only thing that matters. The warehouse was silent except for the low voices of Marcus and the other men, securing the perimeter. Lena stood in front of the most dangerous man she'd ever met, the man who'd manipulated her from the beginning, and tried to figure out if she was furious or heartbroken or something else entirely. "I don't know if I can trust you," she finally said. "I know, and I don't blame you." Adrian's voice was raw. "But Lena, I swear to you, no more games. No more tests, no more manipulation. Whatever happens from here, it happens because you choose it, not because I engineered it. What if I choose to walk away?" Pain flashed across his face, there and gone in an instant. "Then I'll make sure you and your mother are set for life, and I'll never contact you again. You'll be free of me and everything I represent. And if I stay, then I'll spend every day proving that you're more than a chess piece, that you're the first real thing in my life in 20 years. He reached for her hand, his touch tentative. "That I'm falling in love with you, and it terrifies me more than any gun Victor Russo could have pointed at my head." The words hung in the air between them, a confession and a surrender. Lena looked at their joined hands, thought about walking away, going back to safety and normalcy. Thought about never seeing Adrian again, never feeling the way he made her feel, seen, valued, real. Thought about loving a man who'd admitted to manipulating her from the start. "I need time," she said, "to process all of this, to figure out what I want without you influencing the decision. Take all the time you need." Adrian squeezed her hand once, then let go. "Marcus will take you wherever you want to go. The apartment is yours. Your mother's care continues regardless. And whenever you're ready, if you're ready, I'll be here." He stepped back, putting distance between them, creating space for her to choose. Lena walked toward the exit, Marcus falling into step beside her. At the warehouse door, she stopped and looked back. Adrian stood alone in the ruined warehouse, surrounded by the aftermath of violence, looking like exactly what he was, a king in a dark kingdom, powerful and isolated. Their eyes met across the distance. "Thank you," Lena said, "for coming for me." "Always," Adrian replied. "No matter what you decide, Lena, if you're ever in danger, I will always come for you." She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She turned and walked out into the night, leaving Adrian Moretti behind, and wondering if some part of her heart would stay in that warehouse forever. Marcus drove in silence, his eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. Checking for tails, Lena realized, making sure no one from Russo's crew had decided to finish what they started. "Where to, Ms. Hart?" The question was simple, but the answer felt impossible. Back to the apartment Adrian had given her? To the care facility to see her mother? Somewhere else entirely? "The hospital," she finally said. "I need to see my mom." Marcus nodded, changing lanes. "Mr. Moretti arranged for extra security at the facility after the kidnapping. Just so you know, there'll be guards, but they'll be discreet." Of course there would be. Adrian protected what was his, even when Lena wasn't sure she wanted to be his anymore. The care facility was nothing like the county hospital where her mother had been wasting away before. This place was beautiful, all glass and natural light, with gardens visible through floor-to-ceiling windows and staff who smiled like they actually cared. Lena had visited twice since her mother was admitted, but it still felt surreal, like something from a movie, not their real life. The nurse at the front desk recognized her immediately. "Ms. Hart, your mother's been asking about you. She's in the solarium. We thought the sunshine would do her good." Lena found her mother sitting in a comfortable chair wrapped in a soft blanket, watching birds at a feeder outside the window. She looked better, color in her cheeks, less pain etched around her eyes. The sight made Lena's throat tight. "Baby?" Her mother's face lit up. "I've been so worried. They wouldn't tell me where you were, just that you were safe." Lena crossed the room and knelt beside her chair, taking her mother's hands. They were warmer than they'd been in months, not the cold, fragile things she'd gotten used to. "I'm fine, Mom. I promise." Her mother searched her face with a mother's instinct for lies. "You don't look fine. You look like you've been through hell." "Long couple of days." Lena tried to smile, failed. "But I'm okay. How are you feeling?" "Like a new person. The doctors say the treatment is working better than they hoped. They're talking about me going home in a few weeks." Her mother squeezed her hands. "Home, Lena. Can you believe it? Home. Except they didn't have a home anymore. Their old apartment was gone, the lease ended. The only home Lena had now was the one Adrian had provided, and she didn't know if she could keep living there. That's wonderful, Mom. Something in her voice gave her away. Her mother tilted her head, studying her. What happened? Lena had planned to keep it simple, to not worry her mother with the truth. But sitting there in the peaceful solarium, with sunlight streaming through the windows, and her mother looking truly healthy for the first time in years, the whole story came pouring out. The kidnapping, Russo's revelations, Adrian's confession, all of it. Her mother listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to concern to something that looked almost like understanding. So he admitted it, she said when Lena finished, that he'd been planning everything from the beginning. Yes, he said the wallet was a test, that he'd orchestrated our meeting, that I was... Lena's voice broke. That I started as just another piece in whatever game he's playing. But not anymore? He said I became more, that he's falling in love with me. Lena laughed bitterly. How am I supposed to believe that when everything between us has been built on manipulation? Her mother was quiet for a long moment, watching the birds outside. When she spoke, her voice was gentle. Can I tell you something about your father? Lena stiffened. Her mother almost never talked about the man who'd left them when Lena was 6. When I met him, I was waitressing, just like you. He came in every day for a week, ordered coffee, left big tips. I thought it was chance. Turns out he'd asked around about me, found out where I worked, and engineered those meetings. She smiled sadly. When I found out, I was furious, felt manipulated, just like you do now. What did you do? I asked myself one question. Setting aside how it started, who is he now? How does he treat me now that I know the truth? Her mother turned to look at Lena directly. Your father couldn't answer that question honestly. He kept lying, kept trying to control things. That's when I knew it wasn't love. It was possession. So I left. Are you saying I should leave Adrian? I'm saying you need to ask yourself that question. Now that you know the truth, now that all the cards are on the table, who is Adrian Moretti? And more importantly, who does he let you be? Lena thought about the past 6 weeks, the way Adrian had taught her without condescension, challenged her without breaking her, protected her without suffocating her. The way he'd looked at her in the warehouse, raw, honest, terrified of losing her. The way he'd let her walk away. He told me to take all the time I need, Lena said quietly, that everything, the apartment, your care, all of it, continues regardless of my decision, that he'd never contact me again if I chose to leave. That's not possession, baby. That's respect. Her mother reached up to touch Lena's face. But here's the hard truth. Even if Adrian is being honest now, even if his feelings are real, his world is dangerous. You could have died last night. That's not going to change just because he loves you. I know. So you have to decide if loving him is worth the risk. If being seen by him, being chosen by him, being loved by him is worth potentially losing everything else. The question sat heavy between them. Lena had spent her whole life playing it safe, working terrible jobs, accepting invisibility, never asking for more than survival. And then Adrian had walked into her life and offered her everything dangerous and beautiful at once. I don't know if I'm brave enough, Lena admitted. You returned $10,000 when you were desperate enough to steal it. You walked into his world knowing it was dangerous. You survived being kidnapped by a monster. Her mother smiled. Baby, you're the bravest person I know. The question isn't whether you're brave enough. It's whether you want it badly enough. Did she? Lena closed her eyes, picturing Adrian's face. The way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his carefully controlled world. The way he'd admitted to everything without trying to justify or minimize it. The way he'd said, I will always come for you, like a vow. I think I'm falling in love with him too, Lena whispered. And it scares me more than Russo's gun did. Love should be a little scary. It means you have something to lose. Her mother pulled her into a hug, and Lena breathed in the familiar scent of her lavender lotion. Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. You've become someone I barely recognize. Stronger, more confident, and that's not Adrian's doing. That's all you. They sat together for a while longer, talking about lighter things. Her mother's physical therapy, the other patients, the gardens she wanted to walk through when she got stronger. Normal things, ordinary things. The kind of conversation they hadn't been able to have in years because illness had dominated everything. When Lena finally left, Marcus was waiting in the lobby, patient and alert. "Miss Hart, where to now?" She pulled out her phone, the encrypted one Adrian had given her. There were no messages, no missed calls. He was keeping his word, giving her space. "The apartment," she said. "I need to think." The drive back was quiet. Lena watched the city pass by the window, seeing it differently now. Before, it had been a place where she was invisible, struggling, drowning. Now she saw Adrian's influence everywhere. The businesses he owned, the territories he controlled, the delicate balance of power he maintained. This was his kingdom, and he'd invited her to be part of it. The question was whether she wanted to be a subject or a queen. Back at the apartment, Lena stood at the windows overlooking the river, watching boats drift by in the darkness. The space felt empty without Adrian's presence, even though he'd never actually lived here. He'd just shaped it, like he shaped everything he touched. Her phone buzzed. Not Adrian, Vivian Cross. "Miss Hart, I heard what happened. Are you all right?" The concern in Vivian's voice surprised her. "I'm fine, shaken, but fine." "Good. I'm calling because, well, I think we need to talk. Off the record, woman to woman. Would you be willing to meet me for coffee tomorrow morning?" Lena's instinct was to refuse, but something in Vivian's tone made her curious. "What about?" "About working for Adrian Moretti. About what that really means, and whether you're prepared for it." A pause. "I was hard on you when you first started. I want to explain why, and I want to help you make an informed decision about what comes next." "Okay, tomorrow morning." "Where?" Vivian named a cafe in a neutral part of town. They agreed on 8 o'clock and hung up. Lena barely slept that night, her mind churning through everything. Adrian's confession, her mother's advice, Russo's threats. She kept coming back to the moment in the warehouse when Adrian had admitted to orchestrating everything, expecting her to hate him for it, but offering the truth anyway. That had to mean something. The cafe was small, elegant, the kind of place that served $5 coffee in ceramic cups. Vivian was already there when Lena arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cappuccinos waiting. "Thank you for coming," Vivian said as Lena sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." You said woman to woman. That suggests something different than our usual dynamic." "It is." Vivian took a sip of her coffee, choosing her words carefully. "When you first started, I was skeptical, hostile even, and I want to explain why, because I think it matters for what you're trying to decide." "I'm listening." "I've worked for Adrian for 8 years. In that time, I've seen him build an empire from almost nothing. I've watched him outmaneuver opponents, forge alliances, navigate impossible situations. And through all of it, he's been alone." Vivian met Lena's eyes. "Not lonely, alone. By choice. Because everyone who gets close to Adrian either wants something from him or becomes a liability." "What changed with me?" You changed things." Vivian smiled slightly. "I watched him watch you for 3 months before he ever approached you. I thought it was an obsession at first. The resemblance to his mother, a fixation on the past. But then I saw how he looked at you that first day you came to the office, like you were a problem he couldn't solve, like you made him feel something he'd forgotten how to feel." "What's that?" "Hope." The word hung in the air between them. "Adrian told me once that the worst part about his mother's death wasn't losing her. It was learning that love made you weak, that caring about someone gave your enemies a weapon to destroy you with." Vivian's expression softened. "But then you walked into his life and survived a test designed to prove that honest people don't exist. And I think part of him wondered if maybe he'd been wrong all these years." "So you were protecting him? From me?" "I was protecting the organization from the inevitable fallout when he got distracted by a pretty face and started making bad decisions." Vivian's smile was rueful. "But you never distracted him. If anything, you made him sharper, more focused. He started thinking 3 steps further ahead because now he had something worth protecting." Lena wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, absorbing this. "Russo said I was just a chess piece. Russo's an idiot who mistakes cruelty for strength. Yes, Adrian positioned you strategically. Yes, he tested you. But the moment you proved yourself worthy of his trust, He stopped treating you like a piece and started treating you like a partner. Vivian leaned forward. I've never seen him admit fault before. Never seen him offer someone the truth when a lie would serve him better. Never seen him give anyone the power to walk away with everything he's given them. Do you understand what that means? That he loves me. That he's terrified of losing you. Which, for a man like Adrian, amounts to the same thing. Vivian finished her coffee. Look, I'm not here to convince you to stay. What I'm here to say is this. If you choose to walk away, you're making the safe choice. The smart choice, maybe. But if you choose to stay, you're choosing something extraordinary, dangerous, complicated, messy as hell. But extraordinary. You think I should stay. I think you should choose whatever lets you look at yourself in the mirror without regret. Vivian stood gathering her coat. But for what it's worth, I've never seen Adrian happy, not once in 8 years, and these past 6 weeks with you, he's been close, closer than I thought possible for someone like him. She left money on the table for the coffee and walked out, leaving Lena alone with her thoughts and a decision that felt too big to make. Lena spent the day walking the city, visiting places she used to know when she was invisible. The restaurant where she'd worked, someone new was serving tables now, looking just as exhausted as Lena used to. The grocery store where she'd counted every penny. The bus stop where she'd stood in the rain, too tired to cry, wondering how much longer she could keep going. That girl felt like a stranger now. By evening, Lena knew what she had to do. She went back to the apartment, showered, changed into one of the elegant dresses Adrian's stylist had chosen. Then she called Marcus. I need to see Adrian. Can you take me to him? He's at his house. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive to Adrian's mansion felt longer than Lena remembered. Marcus didn't ask questions, just drove with his usual professional efficiency. But when they pulled up to the house, he turned to look at her. Whatever you decide, Ms. Hart, it's been an honor protecting you. You think I'm here to say goodbye? I think you're here to make a choice. The rest is above my pay grade. But he smiled, just slightly. For what it's worth, I hope you stay. You're good for him. The front door opened before Lena could knock. Not a security guard this time. Adrian himself, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, his hair slightly disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. Lena. Her name sounded like a prayer. Come in. She followed him through the house to the living room with the city view. The same room where he'd first made his proposition, where this whole complicated thing had started. Can I get you something to drink? Adrian asked, his voice carefully neutral. No, I just need to talk. All right. He sat down across from her, maintaining distance, giving her space. I'm listening. Lena took a breath, gathering her thoughts. I spent the day thinking about what you said in the warehouse, about the manipulation, the tests, all of it. And I talked to my mom and to Vivian. I tried to figure out if I could forgive you for lying to me from the beginning. Adrian's expression gave nothing away, but she saw his hands tighten slightly on the arms of his chair. And? He said quietly. And I realized I was asking the wrong question. The question isn't whether I can forgive you for how this started. The question is whether I can trust you with how it continues. Lena leaned forward. So I need you to answer something honestly, Adrian. No games, no manipulation, just the truth. Anything. When you look at me now, what do you see? Am I still the girl who reminds you of your mother? Am I a project you're managing, or am I something else? Adrian was silent for a long moment, his gray eyes studying her face like he was memorizing it. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion barely held in check. When I look at you now, I see the woman who walked into my world knowing it was dangerous and chose to stay anyway. I see someone who's stronger than she knows, braver than she believes, and more important to me than I have words to explain. He stood, moving closer but not touching. You're not my mother's ghost. You're not a project. You're the first person in 20 years who's made me want to be better than what this world turned me into. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. I know, and if it's too much, if you need me to let you go, I will. But Lena, you asked for the truth, so here it is. I'm in love with you. Completely. Irrevocably. In a way that terrifies me because it makes me vulnerable. And I don't know if I can be the man you deserve, but I want to try. If you'll let me. Lena's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. I have conditions. Hope flickered across Adrian's face. Name them. No more tests. No more manipulation. If you have a problem with something I'm doing, you tell me. If you're planning something that affects my life, you ask me first. She stood, closing the distance between them. I'm not a chess piece, Adrian. I'm a person. And if we're going to do this, we do it as equals. Equals, he repeated, something like wonder in his voice. I can do that. And you have to try to leave this life, not overnight. I know it's not that simple. But eventually, you have to try to build something legitimate, something that won't get us both killed. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's asking me to walk away from everything I've built. No. It's asking you to build something better. You're brilliant, Adrian. You could run a legitimate empire if you wanted to. The question is whether you want it badly enough to change. And if I can't, if the violence follows me no matter what I do, then we deal with it together, as partners. Lena reached up to touch his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. But you have to promise me you'll try. That you won't choose power over us. Over me. Adrian caught her hand, pressing it against his cheek. I promise. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you. You don't have to be worthy. You just have to be honest. Then, honestly? Adrian pulled her closer, his other hand coming up to frame her face. I'm scared. I've never done this before. Loved someone, been vulnerable, let someone see all the broken parts. I don't know if I'll be any good at it. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out together. Lena smiled through the tears gathering in her eyes. That's what partners do, right? Right. Adrian's thumb traced her cheekbone, his touch infinitely gentle. Can I kiss you? I've wanted to for 6 weeks, but I didn't want to make you feel pressured or... Lena cut him off by pulling him down to her, pressing her lips to his. He froze for half a second in surprise, then kissed her back with an intensity that made her knees weak. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him, and Lena felt the tightly controlled man she'd come to know completely unravel. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he whispered. I know I already said it, but I need you to hear it again. I love you, Lena Hart, and I will spend every day proving it. I love you too, Lena said, and felt the truth of it in her bones. Even though you're impossible and dangerous and you orchestrated our entire relationship. He laughed, really laughed, the sound transforming his face into something young and almost carefree. Especially because of that, I hope. Maybe a little because of that. She pulled back enough to look at him properly. So what happens now? Now? Adrian's smile was soft, genuine. Now we start over. No manipulation, no tests. Just us, figuring this out together. That sounds terrifying. It is. He kissed her again, softer this time. But I've learned something from you, Lena. Sometimes the most terrifying choices are the ones most worth making. They stood together in front of the windows overlooking the city, his kingdom, which she was choosing to share. Tomorrow would bring challenges, complications, the inevitable difficulty of loving a man like Adrian Moretti. But tonight, wrapped in his arms, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe, chosen, home. Stay with me tonight, Adrian murmured against her hair. Not because I'm asking as your employer or because I'm manipulating circumstances, just because I want you here. Okay, Lena said simply. They moved to the couch, settling together in comfortable silence. Adrian held her like she was something precious, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her shoulder. Outside, the city glittered with possibility and danger in equal measure. I spoke with Russo this afternoon, Adrian said quietly. We've reached an understanding. He stays out of my territory, I stay out of his. He knows that touching you means war, and he's not stupid enough to want that fight. So it's over? The immediate threat is, but this life, he paused, choosing his words carefully. There will always be complications, Lena. Always new threats, new enemies. I can't promise you safety, only that I'll fight like hell to keep you safe. I know, and I'm choosing it anyway. Lena tilted her head to look up at him. My mom said something today. She said love should be a little scary because it means you have something to lose. I think she's right. Your mother's a wise woman. How is she? Getting stronger every day, thanks to you. Lena sat up, turning to face him fully. That's something else we need to talk about. You can't keep paying for everything. The apartment, her care, all of it. It makes me feel like I'm being bought. You're not being bought. I made you a promise before you ever agreed to work for me, and I'm keeping it. Adrian's voice was firm. But if it makes you uncomfortable, we can revisit the terms. Pay you a salary that covers everything. Make it official employment income instead of gifts. I'd prefer that. I need to feel like I'm earning this, not just accepting charity. Done. Elena can work out the details with you tomorrow. He pulled her back against him. Anything else? Just one more thing. Lena twisted to look at him. I want to keep working as your assistant. I like the work, and I'm good at it. But I need to know that's separate from this. From us. Agreed. Though I have to warn you, mixing business with pleasure is going to be complicated. Everything about us is complicated, Lena smiled, but I think we can handle it. They talked for hours, working through details and concerns, establishing boundaries and expectations. It felt strange, negotiating a relationship like a business deal, but it also felt honest in a way Lena had never experienced before. No games, no assumptions, just two people trying to build something real from complicated foundations. Eventually, Adrian led her upstairs to a guest room. Not his bedroom, she noticed, respecting the boundaries she hadn't even known she needed. Sleep, he said, kissing her forehead. Tomorrow, we start fresh. New terms, honest foundation, real partnership. Tomorrow, Lena agreed. She lay in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the quiet sounds of the house settling around her. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Tomorrow she'd have to face Vivian and the rest of Adrian's team with this new dynamic. Tomorrow, she'd have to navigate being both employee and partner, both protected and equal. But tonight, she'd made a choice. Not the safe choice or the easy choice, but the one that felt right in her bones. She'd chosen love over fear, truth over illusion. Adrian Moretti, with all his complications and darkness and desperate, terrifying honesty. And somehow, impossibly, she thought it might just work. Her phone buzzed with a text from Adrian, even though he was just down the hall. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I won't waste it. She typed back. Don't make me regret it. His response came immediately. I'll spend my life making sure you don't. Lena smiled in the darkness, holding her phone against her chest, and let herself believe in the possibility of a dangerous man learning to choose love over power. It was a gamble. But then again, so was returning a wallet full of cash when you were desperate enough to steal it. And that gamble had led her here. Morning came with sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee drifting up from somewhere below. Lena woke slowly, momentarily disoriented, then remembered where she was. Adrian's house. The choice she'd made. The future she'd committed to. She found him in the kitchen, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, cooking breakfast like it was the most natural thing in the world. The sight was so domestic, so unexpected, that she stopped in the doorway just to watch him. He looked up, caught her staring, and smiled. Good morning. I hope you're hungry. You cook? Badly, but yes. My mother taught me before. He stopped, the old pain flickering across his face. Then he took a breath and continued. Before she died. She said a man who couldn't feed himself was at the mercy of others. She was right about a lot of things. Lena crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her face against his back. She felt him relax into the embrace, one hand covering hers. Thank you, he said quietly, for not running, for staying, for giving us a chance. Thank you for being honest, finally. They ate breakfast together at the island, talking about small things, her mother's progress, the work waiting at the office, the logistics of their new arrangement. It felt strange and wonderful, this ordinary morning conversation with a man who was anything but ordinary. I need to address the team today, Adrian said, finishing his coffee. Let them know about the change in our relationship. It's going to create complications. Like what? Like people questioning whether your position is based on merit or favoritism, like concerns about pillow talk and confidential information, like Vivian having an aneurysm. He smiled slightly. But we'll handle it, together. Together, Lena echoed, testing the word. It still felt new, fragile, like something that could break if she held it too tightly. They arrived at the office separately. Adrian first, then Lena 20 minutes later with Marcus. The deception felt silly given what Adrian was about to announce, but he'd insisted on maintaining some semblance of professionalism. Vivian was waiting when Lena stepped off the elevator, her expression unreadable. Conference room, 10 minutes. Mr. Moretti is calling an all-hands meeting. She paused, studying Lena's face. You stayed at his house last night. It wasn't a question. Lena met her gaze steadily. Yes. And you're still planning to work here? Yes. Something shifted in Vivian's expression, not quite approval, but perhaps respect. Then you should know that half the staff is going to assume you slept your way into favor, and the other half is going to wonder if you're a liability. You'll have to prove yourself all over again. I know. Good. Because I'm not going easy on you just because you're sleeping with the boss. If anything, I'll be harder on you, understood? Understood. Vivian's smile was sharp. Welcome to the complicated part, Ms. Hart. Try to keep up. The conference room was packed when Lena arrived. The entire executive team, plus key department heads, maybe 30 people total. They stopped talking when she entered, dozens of eyes tracking her movement as she took a seat near the back. Adrian was already there, standing at the head of the table with the calm authority that made rooms go quiet. He waited until everyone had settled, then began without preamble. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I'm making this announcement once to everyone, so there's no room for misunderstanding or speculation. His eyes swept the room, landing briefly on Lena before moving on. Lena Hart and I are in a relationship. It began recently, and it will not interfere with her duties as my assistant or with the operation of this company. Anyone who has concerns should bring them to me directly. Anyone who spreads rumors or treats Ms. Hart with anything less than professional respect will be terminated. Are there questions? Silence. Then a senior VP Lena recognized but had never spoken to raised his hand. Sir, with respect, won't this create conflicts of interest? Ms. Hart has access to sensitive information that could what, Michael? Be shared with me? I already have access to all the same information. If you're suggesting Ms. Hart might leak confidential details to competitors, I'd remind you that her security clearance is higher than yours, and her loyalty has been tested more thoroughly than anyone else in this room. Adrian's voice was ice. Next question. No one raised their hand. Good. Then we're done here. Back to work. The room emptied quickly, people filing out with sidelong glances at Lena. She stayed seated, waiting until only she, Adrian, and Vivian remained. That went well, Vivian said dryly, by which I mean it was a disaster, but at least it's out in the open. Give them time to adjust, Adrian said. They will. And if they don't, then I'll replace them with people who can handle the reality that I'm allowed to have a personal life. He looked at Lena. Are you all right? Everyone thinks I'm sleeping my way to the top. Let them think it. You'll prove them wrong. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. I have a call I need to take. Vivian, can you bring Lena up to speed on the Singapore acquisition? I want her involved in the negotiations. Of course. Vivian waited until Adrian had left, then turned to Lena. You handled that well. Not everyone would have stayed calm with a room full of people judging them. I've been invisible most of my life. Being seen, even negatively, is still better than being ignored. Interesting perspective. Vivian pulled out her tablet. Let's talk about Singapore. The acquisition is complex. We're buying a shipping company with ties to some questionable partners. Adrian wants to clean it up, make it legitimate, but that means severing relationships that have been profitable for years. It's going to be messy. They spent the next 3 hours reviewing documents, financial projections, and background on the key players. Lena absorbed it all, asking questions when things weren't clear, taking notes in the shorthand she'd developed over the past weeks. You really are good at this, Vivian observed as they finished. It's not just favoritism. You have a mind for strategy. Thank you, I think. It's a compliment. And Lena? For what it's worth, I hope it works out between you two. Adrian deserves something good in his life, even if it's complicated. The weeks that followed were exactly that, complicated. Adrian kept his promise about honesty, consulting Lena on decisions that affected them both. being transparent about his business dealings. But transparency meant Lena saw things she'd been sheltered from before. Meetings with people who made Victor Russo look tame. Deals that existed in legal gray areas so murky she couldn't see the bottom. The constant, grinding pressure of maintaining an empire built on fear and respect in equal measure. But she also saw Adrian changing. Small things at first. Turning down contracts that would have been profitable but morally questionable. Investing in legitimate businesses, gradually shifting his portfolio away from the shadows and toward the light. It's going to take years, he told her one night as they reviewed his holdings. They were in his home office, surrounded by documents and spreadsheets. Maybe decades. Some of these connections can't be severed quickly without starting a war. I'm not expecting overnight transformation, Lena said. I'm just expecting effort, progress. You're getting both. He pulled her into his lap, burying his face in her hair. Some days I want to burn it all down and start over. Other days I think I'm crazy for even trying. You're not crazy. You're choosing something better. I'm choosing you. The better part is just a bonus. 3 months after the kidnapping, Lena's mother was released from the care facility. She'd responded so well to treatment that the doctors were cautiously optimistic. Not cured, but stable. Maybe years instead of months. Adrian had arranged for her to move into an apartment in the same building as Lena's, 1 floor down. It was smaller than Lena's place, but still nicer than anywhere her mother had lived before. When Lena helped her settle in, her mother stood at the windows overlooking the river with tears in her eyes. I never thought I'd see this, she said softly. Never thought I'd be healthy enough to enjoy it. You deserve it, Mom. We both do, baby. She turned, pulling Lena into a hug. I'm so proud of you, of who you've become, of the choice you made. Even though it's dangerous? Especially because it's dangerous. You chose love over fear. That takes courage most people never find. Adrian joined them for dinner that night, the first time he'd sat down with Lena's mother since everything had changed. He was nervous, Lena could tell, though he hid it well behind his usual composure. Mrs. Hart, thank you for having me, he said as they settled around the small dining table. Please call me Diana, and thank you for everything you've done for us. For me. She studied him with a mother's assessing gaze, though I suspect you did it more for my daughter than for me. I did it because Lena loves you. That's reason enough. And you love my daughter? More than I knew it was possible to love anyone. Diana nodded slowly. Then I have one question for you, Adrian. What are your intentions? Lena nearly choked on her wine. Mom, it's a fair question. Adrian set down his fork, meeting Diana's eyes directly. My intention is to spend the rest of my life making Lena happy, if she'll let me. To build something with her that's worth more than money or power. To be worthy of the trust she's placed in me. He paused. And eventually, when the time is right, to ask her to marry me. If you'll give your blessing. The room went silent. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. They'd never talked about marriage. It felt too soon, too presumptuous. Diana smiled, her eyes wet. You have my blessing. Both of you have my blessing. After dinner, Adrian pulled Lena aside while her mother was in the kitchen. I'm sorry if that was too much, he said quietly. I probably should have asked you first before telling your mother I want to marry you someday. Someday? Not tomorrow, not next week, but yes, someday. When we've built enough trust, enough foundation, when you're ready. He touched her face gently. Is that okay? Lena thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, exhausted, invisible, drowning. Thought about who she'd become, confident, seen, loved. Thought about the future stretching out ahead of them, complicated and beautiful and terrifying. That's more than okay, she whispered. That's perfect. The Singapore acquisition closed 4 months into their relationship. Adrian negotiated terms that allowed him to buy out the questionable partners, bringing in new investors who were entirely legitimate. It cost him millions more than the original deal would have, but he did it anyway. First step toward clean, he told Lena as they reviewed the final contracts. 12 businesses legitimized, 23 more to go. You're keeping count? I'm keeping score. Trying to measure whether I'm actually changing or just telling myself I am. The fact that you're asking the question means you're changing. 6 months in, Victor Russo reached out requesting a meeting. Adrian was immediately suspicious, But he agreed. Neutral ground, Lena staying safely at the office with Marcus. He returned 3 hours later looking thoughtful. What did he want? Lena asked. To apologize. Adrian poured himself a drink, offered her one. Said the kidnapping was a mistake born of pride and stupidity. Said he's getting too old for wars and wanted to make peace. Do you believe him? Surprisingly, yes. Russo's a lot of things, but he's not a liar. He knows I could destroy him if I wanted to, and he's tired of looking over his shoulder. Adrian took a sip of his whiskey. We agreed to a formal truce. He stays out of my territory. I stay out of his. No more games. So it's really over. One threat, yes, but there will always be others, Lena. That's the reality of this life. Then we'll handle them. Together. 8 months in, Adrian proposed. Not at a restaurant or some grand public gesture. He asked her on a random Tuesday night while they were reviewing quarterly reports in his office. Marry me, he said, looking up from a spreadsheet. Lena blinked. What? Marry me. I know it's not romantic, and I don't have a ring yet, and we're literally doing budget reviews. But I don't want to wait for the perfect moment because there is no perfect moment. There's just us, doing the work, building something real. So marry me, Lena, please. She should have asked for time to think. Should have pointed out that they'd only been together 8 months. Should have been cautious, careful, smart. Instead, she said, yes. Adrian's smile could have lit the city. He stood, crossed to her side of the desk, and kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. I'll get you a ring tomorrow, he promised. The biggest, most ostentatious diamond you've ever seen. I don't need ostentatious. I just need you. You have me. You've had me since the moment you returned that wallet, even though I didn't know it yet. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony with only close friends and family. Diana cried through the entire thing. Vivian served as Lena's maid of honor, giving a speech that was equal parts touching and threatening. Marcus stood as Adrian's best man, his professional facade cracking just enough to show genuine happiness. You know this makes you a mob wife, right? Vivian whispered to Lena as they watched Adrian accept congratulations from their guests. Former mob wife, hopefully. He's working on it. He is. For you. Vivian clinked her champagne glass against Lena's. I never thought I'd see the day Adrian Moretti got married. You're either the bravest woman I know or the craziest. Maybe both. Definitely both. The years that followed weren't easy. Adrian's transition to legitimate business was slow, complicated by old loyalties and older enemies. There were threats, close calls, nights when Lena wondered if they'd made a terrible mistake. But there were also victories. Companies sold to clean buyers. Partnerships ended. New ventures started in industries that didn't require looking over your shoulder. Slowly, painfully, Adrian built something worth having without destroying himself in the process. 3 years after their wedding, he officially severed his last connection to organized crime, selling his remaining questionable holdings and reinvesting everything in legitimate enterprises. The celebration was quiet, just the two of them, a bottle of wine, and the knowledge that they'd actually done it. How does it feel? Lena asked, curled against him on their couch. Strange. Lighter. Like I can finally breathe all the way. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for choosing to change. I didn't change for me. I changed for us. 4 years in, they started the foundation. Adrian had made billions in his various ventures, legitimate and otherwise. Lena insisted they do something meaningful with it. The Moretti Foundation focused on helping people like she'd been, struggling, drowning, one crisis away from complete collapse. They funded medical care for families who couldn't afford it, provided job training and education, created pathways out of poverty. Lena ran it personally, overseeing grants and programs with the same intensity she'd once brought to serving tables. Adrian supported her completely, attending fundraisers and writing checks, but making it clear this was her vision, her legacy. You've changed too, he observed one night after a particularly successful gala. You're not the scared waitress anymore. No, I'm the woman who married a reformed crime boss and convinced him to give his fortune away. She smiled. Not sure that's better. It's perfect. You're perfect. 5 years after Lena had walked into Adrian's restaurant and returned a wallet that changed everything, they stood together in the Foundation's new headquarters. A beautiful building in the heart of the city, dedicated to helping others the way Adrian had once helped her. "This is what you meant," Lena said, looking around at the space that would house medical clinics, job training centers, legal aid services. "When you said you wondered if you could keep something without destroying it. I kept you, and you kept me." Adrian pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Everything else is just details. Important details. The most important." He turned her to face him, his gray eyes soft with love and hard-won peace. "Do you ever regret it, choosing this life? Choosing me?" Lena thought about the question, about the danger, the complications, the years of watching Adrian fight his own nature. Thought about the threats they'd faced, the enemies they'd made, the price of loving a man like him. Then she thought about the Foundation helping hundreds of families. Thought about her mother, healthy and happy, living in comfort. Thought about the man in front of her, who'd torn apart his entire world and rebuilt it into something better because she'd asked him to. "Not once," she said. "Not for a single second." "Good, because I have a confession to make." "Should I be worried?" "Probably." Adrian's smile was sheepish. "Remember that first night? The wallet I left behind?" "The test." "Yes. I had a backup plan. If you'd kept the money, I was going to have my people return it to you anonymously with a note saying it had been found. I would have given you another chance, engineered another meeting, tested you differently." Lena pulled back to stare at him. "You're telling me 5 years later that the test had a safety net? That I couldn't have actually failed?" "I'm telling you that I was determined to have you in my life one way or another. The test was to see who you were, but I'd already decided you were worth knowing." He caught her hands. "I've never told you that because I wanted you to believe you passed on your own merits, which you did. But you should know, I was never going to let you go." "That's incredibly manipulative." "I know, I'm sorry. And also kind of romantic in a twisted way." "I can work with that." He kissed her, soft and sweet. "Any other confessions you want from me while we're being honest?" "Just one. Do you still see your mother when you look at me?" Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. "No, not for years now. When I look at you, I see my wife, my partner, the woman who saved me from becoming something monstrous." He touched her face gently. "I see my future, and it's brighter than I ever imagined possible." They stood together in the Foundation building, sunlight streaming through the windows, surrounded by the physical proof that people could change, that love could transform, that even the darkest past could lead to luminous futures. "I love you," Lena said, "even though you're impossible and manipulative and you orchestrated our entire relationship." "I love you too," Adrian replied, "even though you made me dismantle my empire and give away my fortune and become someone better than I wanted to be." Sounds like we're even. Sounds like we're perfect. Outside, the city moved at its relentless pace, people struggling, surviving, searching for their own salvation. Some of them would find their way to the Foundation, would get the help Lena once needed desperately, would have their lives changed by the woman who'd once been invisible, and the man who'd been taught that love was weakness. Together they'd proven that love was strength, that honesty could build what manipulation couldn't, that the best foundations were built not on tests and games, but on truth, trust, and the terrifying choice to be vulnerable with another person. Marcus appeared in the doorway, professional as ever despite the 5 years he'd spent protecting them both. "Sir, the mayor's here for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. And Mrs. Hart, your mother just arrived." "Mrs. Moretti," Adrian corrected gently. "She's been my wife for 5 years, Marcus. You can use her married name." "Old habits, sir." But Marcus smiled just slightly. "Mrs. Moretti, your mother is asking for you." Lena squeezed Adrian's hand once more, then went to find her mother. Diana was standing in the lobby, looking healthy and vibrant at 63, her illness a managed condition rather than a death sentence. "Baby, this place is beautiful," she said, pulling Lena into a hug. "Your father would be proud. I'm proud." "We did it, Mom. We actually did it. You did it. You took a chance on love when it was dangerous and difficult. You chose possibility over safety, and look what you built." The ceremony was simple, Speeches from the mayor and several foundation board members, a ribbon cutting, applause. Adrian spoke briefly about second chances and the importance of helping those who couldn't help themselves. Lena added her own words about how one act of kindness could change everything. When it was over, when the politicians and press had left, and it was just their inner circle remaining, Adrian pulled Lena aside. "There's one more thing," he said. "Come with me." He led her to a small office on the top floor, unlocked the door with a key he'd been carrying. Inside was a desk, a chair, and on the wall a framed photo. It took Lena a moment to recognize it. Herself at 19, wearing her waitress uniform, caught in candid profile as she served a table at Giancarlo's. "You kept this?" she whispered. "I took it the first time I saw you, the moment I knew I had to know more about you." Adrian came to stand beside her, looking at the photo. "I've kept it all these years as a reminder of where we started, of the woman who was invisible to everyone but me." "I'm not invisible anymore." "No, you're the most visible person in my world, the center of everything." He turned her to face him. "This is your office, for when you're working at the foundation. I wanted you to have a space that's entirely yours, with a reminder of how far you've come." Lena looked around the office, modest but beautiful, with windows overlooking the city and sunlight streaming across the floor. 5 years ago, she'd been drowning. Now she was saving others from the same fate. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "for seeing me when I was invisible, for testing me even though I hated it, for choosing to change, for loving me." "Thank you for returning the wallet," Adrian replied, "for being brave enough to walk into my world, for refusing to let me stay in the darkness, for loving me back." They stood together in the office, holding each other as the city stretched out below them. Somewhere out there, someone was struggling with impossible choices. Someone was working 3 jobs to keep their mother alive. Someone was invisible, drowning, desperate. And tomorrow, the foundation would be there to help. To offer the same chance Adrian had once offered Lena. Not a test, but a genuine opportunity. Not manipulation, but honest support. "We should get back to the others," Adrian said eventually. "Vivian will kill me if I monopolize you all day. Let her try. You have the best security money can buy. I have Marcus. It's not the same thing." They returned to the lobby where their friends and family were gathered. Diana was talking with Vivian, comparing notes on keeping difficult people in line. Marcus was in the corner, ever watchful, but with an almost imperceptible smile on his face. This was their family now. Not traditional, not conventional, but real. Built on truth instead of illusion, on choice instead of manipulation, on love that had survived tests neither of them had known they were taking. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked, following her gaze. "That we made it. Against all odds, despite everything, we actually made it." "We did, and we'll keep making it, every single day." He kissed her temple. "Ready for the rest of our lives?" Lena thought about the journey that had brought them here. The wallet, the test, the danger, the choice. Thought about falling in love with a man who'd orchestrated their meeting but couldn't orchestrate her feelings. Thought about watching him dismantle an empire and build something better in its place. Thought about all the years ahead, complicated, beautiful, real. "More than ready," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. They walked back into the celebration together, hand in hand, 2 people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to walk toward the light. The test was over. The games were done. What remained was simple and profound, love built on honesty, strengthened by choice, proven by time. In the end, that was worth more than any empire, more than any fortune. More than anything Adrian had ever possessed before Lena Hart walked into his life and taught him that the bravest thing he could do was let someone truly see him. She'd seen him, all of him, the darkness, the violence, the manipulation, the desperate loneliness. And she'd chosen him anyway, just as he'd chosen her. Not because she reminded him of ghosts, but because she was entirely, impossibly herself. Real in a world of illusions, honest in a life built on deception, light in his carefully controlled darkness. Together, they were something neither could have been alone, whole, healed, home. The foundation doors would open tomorrow to help others find their way. But tonight, surrounded by the people they loved, Adrian and Lena celebrated the only foundation that truly mattered. The one they'd built together, brick by honest brick, until it was strong enough to last forever.